YouTube, the NBA is always full of trades and a few teams acquiring, each other's players and draft picks and stuff like that. And with the offseason officially beginning here in 2024, the other night I went down this rabbit hole of like trades that led to other trades that led to other trades that I totally forgot even happened, and how like a certain player right now ended up on the team that they're on, and how like certain big trades like shaped the entire NBA that we totally forget about as fans. And in this video, I want to share a couple of them with you because some of this stuff is still relevant in today's league, and some of it is just mind-blowing to think about. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Make sure you guys let me know down in the comment section if you want to see more videos like this, because there's literally like hundreds of them that I could put a whole video series out on. So if you guys do enjoy this premise for the video, make sure you guys drop a like and let me know down in the comment section. I will definitely be making more of these in the future. The first one I'm going to talk about in this video is pretty mind-blowing to me because this is a player that for my Philadelphia 76ers has been here for quite some time and will probably be finding a new home in the offseason. That's a different story, but I want to talk about the trade history of Tobias Harris. And Tobias Harris obviously having some ups and downs throughout his career, especially with his time with my 76ers, and a lot of these trades are absolutely insane. So let's start with the beginning of Tobias Harris' career. He was drafted 19th overall by the Charlotte Bobcats to begin his career, which again, another team you probably haven't thought about. And after being drafted 19th by the Bobcats, Tobias Harris was immediately traded to the Milwaukee Bucks in a 3-team deal that involved the Sacramento Kings. The Bobcats received Bismack Biyombo, who was the 7th pick of that very same draft from Sacramento, and the Bobcats also received Corey Maggette, who was kind of the big name in that deal for the Bobcats. Critiquing a lot of these deals isn't what we're going to be doing in this video. I'll leave that to you guys in the comments because some of these trades are nuts in retrospect, right? Including this one. The Kings received John Salmons from Milwaukee and Jimmer Fredette from Milwaukee, who was the 10th pick in that very same draft by Milwaukee. And the Bucks actually received Tobias Harris, like I said, being the 19th pick in that draft. They also got Steven Jackson from the Charlotte Bobcats, Sean Livingston from the Charlotte Bobcats, and Beno Udrih from the Sacramento Kings. So that's the very first, moment in the NBA for Tobias Harris, right? Let's just put this in perspective. He's super young. I think he was 18 or 19 at this time. That's his, arrival to the NBA. He's going to be playing for the Bucks, right? That trade, in retrospect, pretty, I guess, non-impactful for the league, but, there are some names in there that you probably remember quite a bit. Tobias Harris spends 1.5 seasons with the Bucks, kind of struggled to, stay on the floor and find a good role. The Bucks trade him to the Orlando Magic, and this is where Tobias Harris really broke out with the Magic and became kind of similar to the player he is now. The player that received that 5-year, $180 million contract by the Sixers. This was the beginning stages of that, right? So 1.5 years with the Bucks, gets traded to the Magic. I personally didn't remember this trade at all. So the Bucks actually received JJ Redick, Gustavo Ayon, and Ish Smith from the Magic, right? And the Magic received Tobias Harris, Doran Lamb, and Beno Udrih. So just to put this in perspective, right? Beno Udrih and Tobias Harris have been involved in a different trade and then both spent time with the Bucks and then, get traded together to the Magic, and JJ Redick gets traded to the Bucks from the Magic. And it's so crazy because, JJ Redick and Tobias obviously to become teammates with my 76ers in the future, but, they actually got traded for each other. I totally forgot about that trade. So there's 2 trades that Tobias Harris was involved in within like less than 2 years of his NBA career. Again, this is kind of where he breaks out with the Magic, spends 3.5 pretty solid years for Orlando, and then he gets traded to the Pistons. So again, already been traded 3 times, like 5 years into his career. This is a trade, again, another one I totally forgot about, right? The Magic get Brandon Jennings and Ersan Ilyasova for Tobias Harris. It was just a 3-player deal. So, at this point, it's basically, he's traded on draft day in a massive deal, a 3-team deal, and then spends 1.5 seasons with the Bucks, traded to the Magic, spends a few years with the Magic, traded to the Pistons. So this is now the 3rd trade he's been involved in before he's 24 years old, right? And also keep in mind, Tobias at this time, before the Magic trade was seemed to be a really good, rising kind of star forward in the NBA for the Magic. So it was kind of alarming from what I read online about that trade. At the time, a lot of people didn't really understand as far as the Magic wanting to trade him. So anyways, he goes to the Pistons, plays 2.5 years with the Pistons, right? Another couple solid years for the Detroit Pistons. And then he gets traded to the Clippers. And this is the trade that actually sent me down this rabbit hole because I'm thinking, I remember Tobias on the Pistons and I remember him on the Clippers. I remember him for all these teams, right? And then I'm thinking, like, what do those trades look like? Because I just couldn't remember, right? And this is actually the trade that was so big that I totally forgot about. Blake Griffin was traded to the Pistons from the Clippers with, Tobias Harris being the big piece of that trade for the Los Angeles Clippers. At the time, Blake Griffin he had dealt with a lot of injury issues. The Lob City Clippers were kind of, being dismantled. This would basically begin the process of what would eventually become the Kawhi and PG era of the Clippers. Clippers. And the Pistons, you know, obviously Blake Griffin arguably had the best season of his career with the Pistons. Basically, the Pistons get Blake Griffin by himself, and then the Clippers get Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a 2018 protected first, and a 2019 second. So even though Blake Griffin had a great season with the Pistons very shortly after this trade, you know, you got to think this is kind of a W trade by the Clippers. I can't help but critique some of these trades. I apologize. We're going to get through this video, I promise. So Tobias spends 1.5 years with the Clippers, and for a short period of time in his, you know, final season with them before this other trade I'm about to mention, he was kind of their best player, right? And really stood out as a solid, you know, offensive forward. And so he spends 1.5 years with the Clippers, and the Sixers at this time, if you guys remember the Jimmy Butler, you know, half a season he spent with the Sixers, that lineup was insane. That was probably the Sixers' best chance to win a championship in my lifetime of me watching the Sixers. And all of a sudden, you know, they want another big piece to add to their core of Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, and Joel Embiid. So they make a big deal at the deadline for Tobias Harris. Now, Tobias Harris has been traded more times than I can even actually remember off the top of my head now. Let's see. This will be his 5th trade, right? And he's not even 30 yet. This is like insane to me. The Clippers get Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, Landry Shamet, a 2020 protected first-round pick from Philadelphia, a 2021 first-round pick from Miami, unprotected, and a 2021 and 2023 pair of second-round picks from the Detroit Pistons. That's a big haul for Tobias Harris. And the Sixers get Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, and Mike Scott. And then from there, we know the rest is history, but this is 5 trades that Tobias Harris was a part of throughout his whole career. He actually didn't even leave any of these teams in free agency. He was traded to every single team he's been on so far in his career. At the time of me recording this video, hasn't signed a contract with a new team yet. As we know, like I said, the rest is history. Signs that big deal with my Sixers, and we know how that goes. I don't gotta talk about that, and I don't want to talk about that, to be honest. But again, a lot of those trades might not have shifted NBA history, right? Like I said at the beginning, this next one will. But I mean, like, it's just fascinating to me how Tobias Harris was traded 5 times throughout his career, and I really personally forgot a lot about it, you know, a lot of these trades, especially the original draft day one where, you know, Steven Jackson, Corey Maggette were involved in. It kind of seems like all of those teams lost, to be honest with you, but and then him being traded for JJ Redick, and then they would become teammates later on the Sixers. Also, Brandon Jennings and Blake Griffin also making cameos in Tobias Harris trade history. So really crazy to think about, and it's just wild that, you know, a lot of these trades, like these transactions at the deadline, kind of go forgotten, and you don't really think about them a lot of times, and then all of a sudden you're going down this rabbit hole and you find them. So I thought it was interesting. And then the last trade we're going to talk about in this video is one that actually did have a massive impact on the entire landscape of the NBA at the time and going forward, but it wasn't the way that everyone thought it would at the time of the trade, right? Like, this was a blockbuster 4-team deal, I believe in 2012 or 2013, made by 4 big time teams that were contending or trying to contend maybe. And the way this trade turned out was absolutely insane, right? Like, no one could have predicted this. And then just kind of like I wouldn't say a small piece of the trade. We'll talk about it. So in 2013 or 2012, can't remember again, one of the biggest blockbuster trades in NBA history took place, and involving a top 5 player, and that is the Dwight Howard, Andre Iguodala, Andrew Bynum trade, right? It was a 4-team deal, right? At the time, Dwight Howard was in his prime. He was only 26 years old, seemed to be a top 5 player in the entire league. He definitely was, no question about it. He was the best big man in the league, no question about it. And Andrew Bynum was the 2nd best big man in the league. Again, no question about it. These were, you know, facts back then, right? And so you had this trade where, you know, both of them are involved in it, and Dwight Howard is being sent to the Lakers to play with Kobe Bryant. So let's run through the details of this trade, and I want you guys to remember as best you can, if you guys were, you know, watching the NBA at this time, what you guys were feeling, because, you know, for me, I was a Sixers fan. I was super excited. You know, that would be a very big letdown right away immediately. But the 4 teams involved were the Orlando Magic, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Denver Nuggets, and the Philadelphia 76ers. And the Magic, giving up prime Dwight Howard, obviously are going to get the biggest haul in this trade. They were looking to rebuild, I guess, and kind of start over, and they end up getting Aaron Aflalo, Al Harrington from Denver, both of those players from Denver, 2 young Philadelphia pieces, including Nikola Vucevic. I bet you guys forgot he was drafted by my Sixers. Actually spent a year in Philadelphia. His rookie season, he played for the Sixers, and it was just kind of a throw-in in this trade, right? Like, he had some talent and, you know, maybe some potential, but again, kind of a throw-in. And Mo Harkless. So, you know, all of these 4 guys being pretty good at some point in their career, but Vucevic, you know, obviously, again, kind of a throw-in in this trade, ended up being really solid for the Magic, couple-time All-Star, right? And then the Magic also got from all 3 teams in the deal other than them a protected first-round pick. So Philadelphia, the Lakers, and the Nuggets all gave them a first-round pick, protected though. So that is a massive score for the Magic, right? Like, they're not even going to re-sign Dwight Howard. He's a expiring free agent after the next season. Things are getting really rocky in Orlando, and they send him to the Los Angeles Lakers, who, you know, that's the only player the Lakers got, right? But so yeah, the Lakers get Dwight Howard from Orlando. The Nuggets get Andre Iguodala Iguodala from Philadelphia, who was our best player at the time. And Iguodala at the time, you know, he had a big time contract and kind of wasn't living up to it for the Sixers. The Sixers had some good success with Iguodala. You know, he spent, in my opinion, some of his best years in Philadelphia, and I think his first 9 years of his career or so, but he clearly wasn't like a number one option or anything on, you know, offense, as he, you know, really was a more versatile player, right? Like he could have been a great number 3 or number 2 option, you know, as we'll see in the future with another team. He was an all NBA defensive guy, you know, was super great, versatile defender. He was a great playmaker, could handle the ball. He could score when he really needed to, but he wasn't a great scorer ever in his career, in my opinion. He wasn't living up to his contract, I guess, in that number 1 role, you know. So the Sixers sent him to the Nuggets, and he was also an expiring contract after the next season. So Sixers get Andrew Bynum and Jason Richardson, 2 win now type pieces for the Sixers. And if you guys remember back then, the Sixers had like Drew Holiday, Lou Williams, Evan Turner, Thaddeus Young. Like they had some young, hungry pieces that were ready to contend. Andrew Bynum never played an NBA game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, I'm not here to critique the trade, but I felt that that was important to get off my chest as a Sixers fan. Totally robbed our organization, right? Here's the thing with this trade, right? Like you could look at this trade and say everyone other than the Magic lost this trade, right? Like everybody got kind of a raw deal in, you know, in this trade, except for the Magic made out so good, so good in this trade. That's not why I'm talking about this trade. That individual trade is crazy that it happened, and, you know, crazy the way it ended up. But the crazier thing about this trade is that the next season, Andre Iguodala spends 1 season with Denver, kind of a rental, right? Didn't really make sense for them. They weren't going to re-sign him. Again, he had a big contract at the time. So they trade him to the Warriors in a 3-team deal. The Warriors get Andre Iguodala from Denver. The Nuggets get Randy Foye from Utah, and Utah gets Richard Jefferson, Andres Biedrins, and Brandon Rush, all via Golden State, as well as draft picks and cash, because the reason Utah was involved and kind of a facilitator of this trade and getting so much on, you know, the back end of this deal is because the Warriors just basically salary dumped all the role players to Utah. So Brandon Rush, Richard Jefferson, Biedrins, and they ended up giving 4 draft picks and some cash to the Jazz just to take their bad contracts and take, you know, those salaries off their books because they wanted Iguodala. So a really crazy deal right at the time, and the Warriors obviously made out okay. And the crazy thing about this trade that I want to talk about, this whole kind of trade scene, how it, you know, happened, is because at the time of that 4-team blockbuster Dwight Howard trade, right, nobody was thinking that the biggest winner of all of this would be the Golden State Warriors for ending up, you know, snagging Andre Iguodala a year later. Everyone thought the Lakers were the big winner and the Sixers were the big winner, and then a year later the Golden State Warriors would begin what would become a 4, you know, championship dynasty, with Andre Iguodala as being such a big part of that, and him winning Finals MVP just a few short seasons later. But again, you know, if you looked at that blockbuster trade at the time, you'd be like, first of all, the Warriors aren't even involved, and this is a steal for the Lakers. Are going to dominate, right? They're going to win so many more rings with Kobe and Dwight. It's like, you know, Kobe and Shaq again. And all of a sudden, a few years later, the Warriors are the winners of that whole saga, right? So it's just a crazy trip down memory lane to think about some of these trades. I thought it was so fascinating, you know, figuring out how all this stuff ended up playing out. There's tons of examples of this throughout NBA history, right? A trade that led to a trade that led to a big event that nobody expected and that you and I totally forgot about. So if you guys want me to, you know, make a series out of this, I can find literally 100 more examples. Drop a like on the video. Let me know down in the comment section if that's something you want. I will totally do it in the future if you guys want me to. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, man. Like I said, drop a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, because we upload content just like this every day on the channel. NBA videos every day. The off season's coming up. Free agency, trades, draft, right? Summer Olympics, all this stuff we're gonna be covering every day on the channel, so I don't want you guys to miss it. I'm just a passionate NBA fan. I'm not an expert or anything, but I do love basketball and I want you guys to, you know, share it with me. So hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. This is your boy D-Haven, as always. Peace.